Life is a garden, and we are all gardeners. When we think about gardening, we think a lot about color and flowers and things that come to life and pop. So I feel like colors have so many meanings to them, especially in the garden. People say, I want my garden to be red and yellow. Some people I've done that said, I only want a white garden. Um, I also think colors have this way of, like a red, white, and blue flag means America. A rainbow flag means gay. A pink room means a girl. A blue room means a boy. But that's not really what the true meaning of color is. So today I'm lucky enough to be sitting with my friend Gillian, who is a color scientist, and we're going to get down and dirty about color, what it means, how it feels. So Gillian's going to tell us her story first, and then we'll get into it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Cheers to you, girlfriend.
Cheers, sweetheart.
Okay. Tell me first tell me how you got into color and how we are even got here.
Wonderful. I'm happy to do that. So I was born in color, really. I didn't really realize it till I was probably about 3. So a few things happened to me at that point. I was very sick and I spent a lot of my childhood in hospitals. So I was isolated a lot. And I learned that if I could imagine my favorite color and surround myself in that color, I would feel calm.
Wow. At 3.
At 3. And then I'm very intuitive and I could read what the doctors and nurses, what colors they needed. But, I'm 3, I'm in an oxygen tent. They're not interested in what I think about their color, but I knew it. And then also when I got out, I was fortunate enough to go to the Montessori school system. And I remember, I was still around that age, maybe 4. I remember the art teacher carefully explaining that if you mix blue and yellow, you're going to get green. And I thought, why is she wasting our time with this? Because I could look at any color and tell you it's makeup.
Wow.
So it's literally a part of me.
Right.
So but again, when you're a kid, you think everybody can do what you do. You don't realize it's a superpower. And I'm all about like feelings and emotions anyway. And so when I got into interior design, I always started the intake conversations with, how do you want to feel? Not what you like, not what your style is, none of those. Those come later. I always started with how you want to feel. So then I guess flash forward a little bit more, we had 9/11. And that was a point where nobody was really doing anything very much. And I was in Manhattan. And I thought, okay, what do I have that I can heal people, because we're all bleeding at this point, and pay the rent? And it was like color. I understand many, many aspects of color. And I'd been fortunate enough to work for a lot of top architectural firms, and our clients were Fortune 500 clients. And so it was usually, 40 men and myself in a room, and we're making design decisions. And whenever we came to color, they had to go to the men's room, they're coughing, they're distracted. And I thought, okay, they're intimidated because we're socialized to think of color as status or class or good taste. It's none of those things. It's primal. The colors that resonate within our soul are written in the DNA.
Wow.
But we've been bombarded with color marketing and this is the cool color for this year and all those kinds of things that we've lost our way. So anyway, I realized I have to take the intimidation factor out, because that's what stops most decisions, most sales, most decisions based on color, come down to color. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to pick 50 paint colors that I knew were tried and true and worked in a lot of situations. And there, I think, were 6 different brands. And I put them in nail polish bottles. because it's impossible to be intimidated by nail polish.
Right. I think that's so good. But wait, just want to ask you something else. What does it mean when you say that, you said something, wait, people are intimidated by color? What does that look like? Like, why? Afraid of color?
They are afraid of being judged
By what they pick?
by others, thinking they don't have good taste, or they don't know what they're talking about,
Okay.
or they, don't come from the right socioeconomic background.
Because color shows that.
Well, we're taught it does. It doesn't. It's in us. It's just like our nose, the nose we come with. You can't say, well, you don't have any class because you have that nose.
Right, right.
Our responses to color are part of our evolution. And there were two purposes for color being part of our evolution. And one is to warn us about toxins and poisons.
What color is that?
Well, mold is green. So you can see or feel, really you're feeling those colors, but you can see and you are warned to not do that. And the other is to stimulate the vibration, because color is energy, it's vibration. Color's vibration stimulates our minds to grow and develop.
Wow.
So those are the two reasons color are a part of who we are, but we've sort of lost our way. And I give color talks all over the country on how and why we respond to color and why it's important and how it's personal.
So I want to ask you another thing. Is everybody get stimulated from a different color?
Everybody responds differently to different stimulation. And how that gets organized is our temperament. So our temperament determines how much stimulation, personally, we need to feel calm. And some people need a lot of stimulation to
Right.
feel calm, and others less.
So to you, yellow might be your stimulation color, and to me, it might make me nervous.
Absolutely. It's all about the vibration, because yellow has a very strong vibration. And so, I mean, for me, I need less stimulation. So when I was a kid, I disliked yellow so much that I thought it should be eliminated from the color wheel.
Wow. Because they do say don't paint a baby's room yellow, it'll make them nervous.
Well, again, those are associations, and that's cognitive. And that's really how we understand
I see.
color. Blue makes you sad, red makes you hungry. Well, it depends who you are. Red
Right.
can make you angry. It can stimulate you sexually. It can do a lot of things. We just put a word associated to that
Right,
color
right.
for everyone.
I so understand that, because like red is a passion color, but they say something like I'm in a blue mood, and then they say blue skies, nothing but blue skies. So I guess to some blue skies mean happy and other blue mood means
You
sad.
hit the nail on the head, because a lot of these associations have both positive and negative associations. So blue, associatively, is, and that's why a lot of banks are blue, it symbolizes trust, right?
Ah,
But it also symbolizes depression.
right.
Again, cognitive,
Right,
associative,
right.
not primal. So people ask me all the time, well, what does this color mean? I was like, well, associatively, it has probably 20 meanings, and they're opposite.
Oh,
But what's important to know is how you respond to that color.
right.
How does it make you feel? Because there's a part of our brain called the hypothalamus. And our hypothalamus determines instantly, it's a reflex, it's not a thought. It determines whether we want to be near a color or whether we are repelled from that color instantly, in like a nanosecond. But we don't know that. We just think, oh, I don't like that color.
I see. Or you say I don't wear red because it doesn't look good on me.
Well, that's a whole different ballpark. So the clothes we wear are about our skin tone and our hair tone.
So that's real.
That's real, because that's a composition.
Right. You could look at someone and be like, you should not be wearing that color.
Absolutely.
Right, right. In fact, I think you have said that to people.
I try very hard not to, unless I'm asked. And then people have been starting to ask me if I had helped them with their wardrobe and things like that, because I just see it in a way that not everybody
Right,
sees it.
right.
So people think, like, I mentioned when I was surrounding myself at 3 in the color that I loved, which was emerald green. I still love emerald green. And believe me, it looks fabulous on my hand. But I couldn't sit in an emerald green room to save my life because it's about not only vibration, it's about scale and proportion. Like an emerald is this big.
Right.
The
A whole
room
room.
is bigger than you are. They're not transferable. I can't tell you how, 80% of people's favorite color is blue.
Right.
So many people want a blue whatever, room or whatever. And I go there, and I have this whole interactive color play to help people discover what their primal colors are. And then they tell me, I don't tell them. They never pick blue.
Once you explain to them or once you just show them?
Once it's about thinking about how you want to feel. Blue's a very cold color.
Yeah, I think so.
And certainly you can use blue in spaces, but then the other walls have to be different colors. And
Right.
you have to really create like a broader palette in order to get that to work.
What I say about blue, though, too, is I always want to go with colors that are in nature, and there's not really any blue flowers. There's a little bit of shades of blue, but in general, I can think of 2 maybe that are blue. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's just not a nature color, but the sky is blue. So it is funky how that is. So I want to know, if you're looking at people and helping them find their color, can you see from a reaction like that is not a good color from you, or only when I tell you like I don't like that color?
Are you talking about clothing
Or anything? Like
environment?
if you're putting paint colors in front of me and I go straight to like oranges, can you see, and I look at something and get this weird, do you read me or
Yes.
yes? And what are you looking for? Like how
I'm
am I going to
not.
explain it to you? Or I don't even need
You
to.
don't need to explain it to me. And I don't know that I could explain it to you what I'm feeling. It's all about feeling.
Right.
It's being an empath. It's
Right.
about
I mean, I feel that way in the garden too.
feeling people's energy, because it's about energy. And that's what I do is help people discover the color, the energy of a color that has the same energy as you do.
Ooh.
And so when they are matched, you're a piece.
You flow.
It's flow.
So you plug into a color. So is emerald green what makes you flow?
Well, again, we're talking about different things.
I guess you're right.
So if we're talking about an object, it still does. Although I am partial to periwinkle.
I like periwinkle too.
I would never have, not never, maybe I'd have a small wall that's emerald green, but I'd have to carefully orchestrate what the other colors are so it doesn't bring me down.
Right. So when you go to someone's house, do you look at their temperament, or do you just strictly say, show me, like would you be able to come into someone's house and say immediately like you should not have a red door?
Yes, and so I'm pretty good at reading people and how much it's really about stimulation.
Right.
How much stimulation they need to feel at peace. But that's why I've created this color play, because
Tell me what that means, color play.
Color play is an experience that I've created to help you discover what your primal colors are. So the first part of it is like, it's a color quiz. It's a list of emotions and somewhat of their opposites, because otherwise people just say calm. And not that that's not helpful, but I don't know what calm means to you.
Right.
So I'm trying to get into your head. So I've created this color quiz. It's 12 adjectives and their opposites.
Tell me one, like what's a good one and an opposite?
One is dynamic versus welcoming.
Oh.
Very different experience, very different level of vibration, very different colors.
So is that a house thing that you're looking at, dynamic versus that, or?
Well, I'm an interior designer, so mostly what I'm practicing are creating palettes for people based for their home or work situation or hotels. And in hotels, it's a little bit different because you have a broader range of the population coming into you. And we're really categorized 50-50. 50% need a lot of stimulation, 50% need very little stimulation. And when you think about condo developments, but I meant hotels, they're either broadly colored, highly patterned,
Right.
or they're neutral, right? And those decisions get, come from a very variety of reasons.
Right.
A lot of that is associative, what you want people to think. Now, color, as we've been talking about, is about feel. It's not about,
think.
I mean, there is an element of think, but it's much less than feel. So with hotels and anything that's sort of a public space, I believe it's important to have both
Right.
both groups represented. So even if you want your hotel to be brightly colored and highly patterned for whatever your criteria are, to have little spaces that are neutral. Or they don't even have to be neutral, because neutral means the same color all the way around. But they have to be low vibration,
Right. Right.
less energy. And within lobbies, it's easy to do that. You can put little pockets.
Little stories.
Exactly. And I find it fascinating to watch where people go and sit.
100%.
Because they're not thinking, oh, I want to go over there. They're just going there and they don't even know why.
Right.
And they're
I
sitting
do that
there
all day long.
comfortable. They have no idea what brought them there. So color impacts behavior.
Crazy.
So that's really something that, especially in public spaces, you really want to pay attention to, because you want to organize the behavior. So I have this saying, if you're not controlling the colors in your environment, they're controlling you.
Right. Wow. So do we leave that up to an interior designer? Is there a certain amount of, like, we're going to go to a hotel and, like you said, 50-50? Do people know that? Because not every designer I work with for sure don't understand that.
They do not. And we're not taught. I was fortunate enough, I went to Parsons School of Design. We learned color theory, which is about optics, how the eye works, and color combinations. We never learned about neuroscience and how and why you respond to these colors. So I studied with this organization that's based in Salzburg, Austria, and it was founded in the 50s by Dr. Henry Freeling, and he was the first doctor to create the School for Color Psychology in Germany.
Wow, what does that mean?
So color psychology is how you feel, is how you respond in a space. So some of it's cognitive and some of it is primal.
Right.
But neuroscience is all primal. So it's a combination of mixing all those different aspects of how we respond and need color is how I create palettes.
I love that so much. And I love what you also said about, like, we go to hotels and we sit in certain places. I feel like we do that in our own home.
Everybody does it. They just
There's
don't
just a
know.
space you go, this is my headquarters. This is where I sit, whatever, and you don't even really know why you've made it your headquarters.
You don't.
Maybe there's a window there or whatever, but I feel like it probably has to do with color too, and we don't even realize that.
Color is 80% of our visual perception. 80. It's not just a sweater.
Right. Oh, it's garden.
And opposites attract, right? So most couples, one needs a lot of stimulation, one needs very little.
Or you say you're marrying him because he has this and I don't.
Exactly. But it means their energies are different, and the energy of color that they need is different. So it's the single greatest reason why couples fight about color. It's not about being giving or generous or kind. It's primal.
Feeling. It's so
It's
interesting.
a reflex. It's not a thought.
Right. So I'm a student of feng shui, and my teacher said, like, nobody can have a red bedroom. Is that true? I mean, she said it's the worst for sleeping and it's not a place. So, but you're saying, like, individual.
Well, ish.
Ish. We love a good ish.
There's always gray lines, So primal colors, as a general rule, are harmful to paint your walls. In general.
Harmful to paint your walls.
They're too much vibration. So they're creating chaos within.
I get that feeling. I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
So a red bedroom would fall into that.
I see.
But they're different shades of red,
Right,
right?
right.
You know, if it's a Bordeaux, that's a different thing.
But it's still considered red. Is Bordeaux red? Purple.
Well, it has red
Burgundy.
in it.
Yeah.
It's a burgundy, but it has red in it. Like our psyches are so sophisticated. You
We
could
know.
take a can of white paint. You could put a couple of drops of red in it. You cannot see it, but you can feel it.
Oh, wow. Like a little pinky.
It doesn't even look it, but you feel the vibration.
It's amazing.
So our eyes are not a good litmus test for color.
Right. I know too, I'm like, as a gardener, people say, you know what, I don't like yellow flowers at all. I want nothing yellow, or I only want white. But what I feel happens with that is that everything's mixed with green. So it isn't like a red wall or a blue wall. It's, you know what I mean? It's not ever 100%. And I think that's why maybe a little easier in the garden, because you really are mixing it a little more.
Well,
It's
and
not
you've got
solid.
you've got light.
And you got light.
You know, so many people when they talk about their favorite color, they're thinking of a green leaf or a flower or the sky.
Right, but it looks totally different.
And it's like, well, light is contributing to what you're responding to. If you just took that pigment and took the light out, you may not love it.
Well, that is true. That's why sometimes you paint a wall and then the night comes, it looks completely different than it did in the day. And you're like,
part
what the
of that
hell
is
just
the light
happened?
source.
Right.
And we now are, you know, dealing with LEDs, which is a big learning curve for all of us.
Because it does look totally different.
And it takes out a lot of the reds.
I mean, my skin looks totally different in an LED light.
Because it's red.
Right. I mean, looking in the mirror looks totally different in LED light.
They're working on it. They're working on it.
So interesting. So what is your favorite color? And, you know, is there a color you like to wear and a color you'd like to sit in and a color you like to be in? And like, how does that work?
Great questions. So I like green.
Me too.
Typically, I like greens that have less yellow in them. That's why I like emerald green. And I like olive because it suits my skin tone, because my eyes are kind of olive. And the opposite, what's interesting, if a color works on you, its opposite will also work on you. So I wear a lot of aubergine.
Because that's across the color wheel?
It's across from olive.
That's so good.
So if one works, the opposite typically works. My spaces have very little pattern because that's a vibration as well.
That's a whole different.
And it's too much vibration for me. So I don't wear patterns as a rule. I have a beautiful hand-painted silk rug, but which has a very large pattern. But everything else in my home is a solid.
I didn't even realize that. You're right, though. I kind of go for solid. I mean, I love color and I love pattern and texture, but I do feel a little calmer with a solid color. You know what I mean? With the
it's less stimulation.
Yeah, yeah. And then I accessorize with all my specialties.
Yeah, of course.
It's so juicy. Okay, so when you first go, if you're going to come to a client's house like my house, how do we start with this?
So I start with the color play. So first and if you have a partner, you each get your own because they're going to be different.
For sure.
And you're going to fill out the color quiz, which is this list of adjectives and their opposites, and you pick as many of them as speak to you and leave the rest. So,
take what you like and leave the rest.
Exactly. So what this does, one, it gives me the information I'm looking for because I'm trying to gather as much information from you as possible so I can be the best tool for you. So, but what it's also doing is it's organizing you because you're now thinking, oh, I want to feel dynamic. So that's in you, right? And then the next step is a series of 54 colors. They're hand painted with the paint collection I created for Fine Paints of Europe. The cards are 3x5, and I lay them out in a grid that's very carefully orchestrated so that every color complements every other color on the table. So that I'm always trying to create peace. I'm trying to create balance.
It feels good.
So that's why people like rainbows. They're balanced.
Oh, That's
So
interesting.
whenever you feel a little not balanced, take a look at some rainbows.
Wow.
And it's an instant way of balancing you. So that's what I try and do with.
That's a really good little trick to know.
Yes. There's a reason why people love rainbows.
I thought it was just
And they
because
don't
of all
even
the
know.
colors. I didn't know. So what, I can just look at it if I'm feeling it's like a taking a breath?
Yes.
Like a deep breath, a rainbow. That is a good thing to know.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So what if my husband and I both have two different things and we say we want you to help us pick a color? I like red, he likes blue.
Okay, so after you've gone through the color process with selecting the different color cards, and you each do it differently, we end up probably a dozen, maybe 20 colors that you've each picked, right? And we put them together. And they're different.
Right, of course.
And so the next step, each color is, I have larger format samples. They're 11 by 17.
So it's the same thing, just bigger.
Same thing, exact same color, just larger because that is more vibration.
Right, more color.
And then we tape those up on the wall. And then together, the three of us, or if there are more, whatever, the collective, start analyzing what colors make them feel the best, and is there a color or two that we can eliminate? So we start eliminating, but you're looking at them as a total, right? Because you can't make those decisions with just looking at the color by itself. Because one, you have nothing to compare it to, and two, it's all about the orchestration of the vibrations of each color. So we're trying to create like a symphony, and if there's an off note, which is an off color,
blew the whole band.
It has to go. Exactly. It's out. So we start with that, and then we start, and if we have to do custom color by lightening a color or darkening a color or something.
Oh, if I say I like this red, if it was a little lighter.
Exactly. We can happily go into that. But let's say you and your mystery man have decided on
my mystery color man,
these 8 colors that you want in your home, and they're quite different. So then it's about, then it gets into, optics is involved in it, but it gets into the amount of vibration.
So is optics the way we see it?
Optics is the function of our eye.
Right. So we all have different optics.
Well, it's about our rods and cones, and that's a little bit of color theory.
The rods and the cones, oi.
So, and what's interesting about that is, so typically people have 3 cones, red, green, blue, and 1,000,000 rods. So the rods let the light in, and the cones let the color in, right?
I see.
But for example, people who are colorblind only have 2 cones. And that's why they're limited in what they can see.
And what are those? Are they all the same?
They're blue-green.
Everybody who's colorblind?
No. Well, the cones, that's a good question, because I know there's different types of colorblindness. Some people are red-green colorblind. Some people are blue-green colorblind. 10% of men are colorblind.
Right. I was going to say more men than women.
Yes. And then there are people that have 4 cones. And I'm one of those people.
I might too.
And we have an orange cone.
And how did you figure out that you had 4 cones?
They're tests.
Okay.
They're tests you can take.
So does anyone give that test because they want to, or you say, I want a cone test? I'd like an ice cream cone test, please.
A lot of the color corporations can offer it. It's not like a standard thing that you can go ask to have it done. I've just been in a lot of situations with a lot of manufacturers, and I was able to get tested.
But there is no fixing a cone, right?
No, you can't grow a new one.
Right, no growing cones.
No.
Okay, this is so interesting. The next thing I want to know, so if you can do it for me and my mystery man, how different is that for you to go into a hotel and figure out? Because who knows who's coming there?
Well, then you get into, the programming, which is, who's your clientele.
Right. Are you a Marriott or a Four Seasons?
Right. What part of the world is it? Because the light impacts that. So geography comes into that. What is the experience you want to be giving people? Is this more of a daytime space or an evening space? Like there's a lot of criteria that's part of interior design programming anyway, which we include. And then, the decision makers, there's often a personal element in there
Right.
where somebody needs more vibration,
Right.
and that's part of how that gets created. And so that becomes the overall tone. And then we carefully select, carving out different niches that are the opposite.
So the dining in area like a restaurant might be different than the hotel rooms.
Oh, I would hope so.
And what are you thinking when you want to go to a hotel room? Like what does you as an interior designer want to go in a hotel room? Like what is that?
Well, again, it depends on the purpose of the hotel. If it's a vacation hotel,
Oh,
is it
office, businessy.
is it a conference hotel? So you want different amounts of stimulation based on why people are going there. Um, you know, I, you want it to be, again, I would like to personally organize hotel rooms to be either a lot of stimulation or a little bit of stimulation, and the guest could choose which one they want. To me, that's the ideal
Oh, to
situation.
say when you come in, like, do you want a
Yes.
window view or do you want a parking lot view?
Yes.
Are you looking for stimulation? Are you looking, wow. Although, like you said, some people have no clue.
They don't, but they're different.
Quant.
There are different ways to qualify that. If the concierge is taught to do that, it's not that complicated.
Right.
And I know like in management corporations, they have different colors where they ask people, what color are you drawn to based on, they want to find out if you have managerial skills, are you a follower, are you a leader? Those are all psychological, and they're more cognitive. And so there's a way of, even as simple as having 4 different colored squares, which one would you pick? Not that you're going to live in that square, but it tells the person giving you that the information you need.
I see. So
Like if they're going to pick red, they
you
want
know.
more stimulation.
Right. It's so interesting. And what about all white? What does that do for a person?
That's really interesting. And
'Cause there are
topic of
100 shades of white.
There are thousands, in fact, and I have lots of them. So again, we are taught that white makes things look larger,
Right.
right? It doesn't. It makes things look white. So what it's doing, and one of the great philosophers, which every great philosopher throughout mankind has studied color, but the one that we studied with the most is Goethe. And he believed, because he's the one that quoted that color's main purpose in our lives is to stimulate our minds to grow and develop and feel peace. So you need color for that. So pure white, not tinted white or any of those kinds of things, don't stimulate you. So what they're doing is they're leaving you inward.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, you're going to be daydreaming more. You're going to be less focused. You're going to be less present because you're going inward. And so especially when I work with children's rooms, like children from the age of 10 under need more color to stimulate their minds. So I don't like push, but I can like encourage when they're children's rooms to have some form of color and based on that child.
So is it based on a sex thing, girl, boy?
Not at all. That is about marketing.
That is marketing. So pink is not a girl and blue is not a boy.
It's not.
My older boy always liked pink.
What's interesting in Europe, it's marketing in Europe too, where red was the boy and blue was the girl. Assertive, passive.
Totally. That's so interesting. Okay, I want to talk about a garden. So if I were to hire you to come into my garden and help me pick colors, would that be different than wall color and house color?
Well, yes, and again, as you mentioned earlier, it's a composition,
Right.
right? You've got like 50 shades of
Right.
green.
Plus, it's not flat like a wall.
And the light is coming through. But even if somebody needs less stimulation, they're not going to want the yellow flowers.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
You know, they're going to want periwinkle or, you know,
Purples.
exactly. Low vibration colors. So that would really help you as a designer hone in on what to present.
Right. Well, I also know sometimes I think if you mix too many colors, it's very chaotic. Like I try to tell that to people. You know, they say we want a million different flowers. And I'm always saying, like, that's going to give you a very busy, busy feeling.
But some people need that.
Right, right. I think it looks a little too chaotic myself. And I always.
It's not about, because
right.
you
Well,
don't
it's not
need
about
it.
me.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, no, other people are like, nope, I want yellow and orange and red and purple. And it's like, okay. But it is a different vibe than you would do that in your house. Although people do. They get rugs and pillows and all that other stuff. It's very busy, you know? So it's so interesting. So how do we know what colors are good for us? If we didn't know you and everybody's out there listening, like what's a good test for you to figure out this is too much stimulation for me or this is not enough stimulation for me?
Well, what I like to do in my color talks is I show a series of flowers. Because it takes away from stylistic conditions, understanding of this is good taste or bad taste. It eliminates all those things by looking at flowers. So I would say look at maybe 10 different colored flowers and see which one, if you could only pick one, and everybody has a hard time with this,
Right.
but if you could only pick one, which one would it be?
And is it the way it makes you feel when you look at it? And that's where you'll know.
That's what it is.
And from that, you'll figure out if you like high. So the really energetic colors are the reds.
Reds, orange, yellows.
And the quiet and scoop.
Blue, green, aqua.
And what about white flowers?
Well, again, with flowers, they're not one color.
Right, right.
The stamen's a color.
Leaf.
The little, I don't know what they're called, the little leaves around the flower, the stem. It's a composition. So it's not finite.
I see. And is there a modern color and a vintage color? Or, I mean, if you think about that, is there that?
Well, those are associative.
They're
cognitive. So when you think about like the 70s, think about all those colors that come to mind. So it sets a period.
I see, I see.
You know, you can tell by looking at images what century it's in.
You're right.
What decade it's in, purely because of the color.
You're right, you're right.
So it informs us. You know, when you think about subway maps, they're 500 colors,
right.
but they're telling a story that if you wrote it out in writing, you'd never get anywhere.
Right. Except to say if you follow blue, you're going to get to the blue zone.
Well, it informs you which line you're going to follow.
Right, right.
Without having it written out. So it's graphic.
It's so interesting.
You know, and we're organized. Maps are like that. We're organized by our hair color, our skin color. Look at mug shots.
Yeah.
They tell, you know, what the eye color is, what the, you know, everything. So there's a lot of information based on color. So color permeates every part of our lives.
Totally.
But we just think of it as a sweater.
Right, right. It's so much more than that. And it's a different vibe completely because you might be able to wear a red sweater, but you certainly wouldn't put yourself in a red room. Red room, red room, red room. But I
remember there was a scene on Sex and the City, and Carrie and Mr. Big had gotten back together, and they were getting this apartment. I think they were engaged, and she painted their bedroom red.
I remember that. Yep.
And he just sat there, and she's like, "What do you think?" And he was like,
"Can't do it.
It's red."
Yeah. That's so true, though.
It was obviously too much for him.
Right, right. I remember that one for sure. So can you take those colors and soften them up? I mean, would you say a pink room is better than a red room? And it still has red in it?
Ish.
Ish. There's that ish again.
It's about the person. It's so personal.
It is.
You know, it's about how much vibration you need. You know, and I think about, you know, when we're taught about interior design and we come up with a palette that suits us and it's like perfect. And if you'll notice, a lot of interior designers, a lot of the projects they do have a similar palette.
Right.
It's based on them.
Totally.
And people come to them for their status and their class and their taste and
I love you did my neighbor's house, and it's
right,
that's what I
and
want.
a good seal of approval, all that stuff. But is it really about them?
Well, it's not supposed to be.
And so, you know, that's what I like to do, is to give people a voice.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I like to too. I always think like half the time people want things that I would never have, and I'm like, okay, I get that, you know.
It's not about you.
Right, right. You're living there. And I find people be like, I know you don't think that's right, but I really feel better if this was like that. It's like, fine. You're living here, not me.
Exactly.
How do you find most of your clients?
It's really word of mouth because it's not that well known. What's more known is to hire somebody to come in and tell you what colors you need.
And it's from a style point of view more than what I know of you. Like, not you, but
it's not about you.
You're right, exactly.
It's about aesthetics. It's about composition. It's not that it's bad. It's just not about you. And if there's one thing in our world, it's color. It's about you.
I agree with you 100%. I just want to even go so much as lipstick.
Yes.
Right? I mean, some people feel like they should be wearing oranges or browns or, you know.
There's a lot of that goes into that. Preferably, you want a color that relates to your skin tone.
Right.
That's going to be the most successful.
More than the color you like.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. I remember, like, there are a lot of people that grew up in the 60s and they love the icy pink lipsticks, which I also do. It does not look good on me.
Exactly.
I just like it, which is a choice. That's fine. You know, wear a brooch. You know?
Right. Get a nail polish.
Well, that's about your skin tone too.
You can be a little more flexible with nail polish.
You can, but it was really funny. I was just telling somebody about this. I was in a nail salon recently, and there was a woman on the phone with her daughter. And her daughter was telling her what nail polish color to get. And I was like, if there was ever anything that you should not be taking direction from somebody else, it's your nail polish color. But she wanted to be cool. Like, we are socialized to think it's status, or you're in, like you're wearing the hot color, so you're
right.
Cool.
Like everybody's wearing blue nail polish now, or has purple hair now.
Right. And that, you know, part of that is
trend.
It's trend. It's giving you a way of expressing yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just like, I can do this.
Right.
You know,
because you can take it on and put it off.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, good. I love this. So I want to know, when you go to somebody's house and you say, I'm here to pick your colors with you, you know, is the outside of the house what goes in the neighborhood? Because that's not really, like, how do you pick that? Is that different than the inside of the house color? And do you do outside?
Of course I do outside, and I wish more people asked for it. But it's a little bit different. Excuse me, there's a little bit different criteria because, one, it has to relate to the landscape.
Right.
You can't just have, like, you know,
willy-nilly red house.
A pool aqua colored house. Well, you can, but would you want to?
That's my question.
So, yeah. No, you want it to be related to your landscape.
And what the house looks like.
What the house looks like. Less important what the house looks like.
Really?
More important what the landscape is. And the geography. What type of sun do you get? You know, if you're in the Caribbean versus Ohio, it's very different. And you do, not that you want to, like, match, because one of my least favorite words is match. But you want it related somewhat to the neighborhood.
Right. You're
So you
not the
do
only
want to,
one.
it's a conversation. A neighborhood is a dialogue. It's not one person. So all of those criteria go into making the decisions for the
Right.
house. And also you want to make sure that whatever you've created for the exterior, when you walk inside, you don't feel like you're,
What house
lost
is
your mind.
completely, yeah, completely. I mean, I feel that about landscape. You want to see it from the inside and the outside and what you're looking at. And, there's
Absolutely.
so many little decisions in there.
Exactly. That's why I love like sculpture in the garden, because that's another way of bringing something
Another.
else, an element, not only into your property, but in your home, because you're looking at it through
Right.
the window, just as you
I
said.
also feel as color goes, another way to bring color into the garden is by using pillows and rugs and,
Mm-hmm.
things that
Mm-hmm.
are bring you extra
Mm-hmm.
color as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like some people who live in an HOA and they say all the houses have to be in these three colors. You pick between these three colors.
That's so sad.
I mean, it just looks like Stepford wives all over the
It
place,
does.
And
It
I think
does.
that's the whole idea of it, though.
I know, but it's not about the person.
Right, at all.
The person is eliminated from that equation.
Well, yeah, you got three
How
choices.
sad is that?
That's why we don't live where there's an HOA. Well, I feel like color is such an important thing across the board. And like you said, clothes aren't really on that list because
Well,
clothes
they are, but it's different. It's a different criteria. They're definitely on the list,
well, they're on the list, right?
but there are different criteria.
Right. That's like you said about skin color more
Hair
than
color.
right, right, right. And that is a feeling too. Like you can see somebody wearing something, even if you know nothing, and be like, "Oh, that's kind of offensive,"
Right.
and you don't even know why you're feeling
Right.
that.
That's what it is.
It's the color.
It's the color.
It's so crazy. Color is so important across the board. How many color? I mean, is color science like something that people are studying now? Are there a lot of color science out there? Is there a lot of color
There's
science?
not. I mean, more and more universities are embracing this. It's really, it stemmed from Germany and Austria,
And why?
because that's who studied it first.
Uh-huh.
Goethe was German. This Dr. Henry Freeling was German. The consortium that I studied with were Austrian and German.
So they
Color,
understood color before lots of people did?
I don't know that they understood it. It was important to them. And so that's why people study things, because they want to understand something that's important to them, even if they don't know what it is or why. And that's what happened to me. Like I knew that I could see color and I could put color together and I could read people's color, but I didn't know why.
Right.
So when I studied color science, it gave me the reasons why and enabled me to be faster
Faster at picking that and understanding
reading.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so exciting and cool. I feel like color is such a big part of my life too, and any seeds I plant, I do it around color. I love color. I know what colors do make me feel good. No colors make me feel really bad, but the only other thing I really want to talk about is black.
Mhm.
So why is it like New Yorkers love black? Is
Mhm.
that a vibe to show I'm sophisticated?
Well, I guess that's one of the elements. Like there's three major cities that are all black: London, New York, Hong Kong.
And those are all pretty sophisticated
Right,
cities.
exactly. And I grew, spent most of my life in New York. And
Are you
just,
saying you're very sophisticated?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm Canadian.
That means what?
Open.
Yeah, good. All right.
But the design community in New York is even more invested in black. But one of the reasons, aside from looking hip, cool, groovy, cool, which obviously that's part of it, one of the reasons is we're presenting concepts. So we don't want to be a part of that. So we're taking ourselves out of what you're considering.
Just like a prop in the background.
Exactly.
That's so interesting.
So
that's what
that's
black
how-
is about?
That's for designers and architects. Yes. But it's really interesting. And I, was one of those, believe me.
Me too. Oh, I've spent so much time in black hat, black funky shoes.
Everything
black...
was like,
Right.
charivari. Like,
right. I loved that store.
I know. I
Oh,
love that
forgot
story
about
too.
that story even.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. But it was funny when I moved out to LA about 6 years ago.
They don't do black.
Well, I saw certain like designers wearing black, and I was kind of mystified because it doesn't go here. Part of it is the light, it just looks out of place.
And weather a little too.
Right, which to me is light.
Okay.
Because it's out of place in our surroundings. But what really changed things for me about black is when I was studying color science, one of my main professor, Frank Manca, he taught us that black sucks out light. So it's devoid of energy. And we're talking pure black, not, black with red in it or
50
black
shades
with,
of black.
whatever, complex blacks. And that really stopped me. I was like, wow, that's actually true.
That it sucks out light.
That it sucks out light. So therefore, it's sucking out energy. Do I want to enter a room as an energy suck?
I know.
No.
So think about that as a designer. Like you said, they come in the background, but are they sucking the life out of the room? And for me, I love black too. I wear it. I mean, I don't wear it too much anymore, but I really do like it. But I have changed the way I see it because there isn't black in the garden. There isn't really black in nature. So does that mean it's a made up color?
No, I think, there's a lot of theories on that. But I believe that black is really the composite of all colors, but devoid of light.
What if you smush them all together?
Kind of. Even with paints, you get a brown, you don't really get a black. But if you took the light out, I think it's a void. For no, and it's
Like
not
a
that I
black
never.
hole.
Yes, and it's not that I never wear black, but I have to have a really strong tan. I have to show a lot of skin.
Right, because tan is beautiful with black.
Exactly.
And many
a
bathing
lot of
suits come in
skin.
black.
I know.
Flattering.
But if you're covered up and white,
Yeah.
with that sans tan,
Right.
not so good.
No, not so good
You
at
need
all.
a lot of makeup to pull it off.
Right. You do. Black seems like this quiet little color in the background, but you got to be all prepped up to wear it and accessorized too, Or you look like, I don't even know, with like this much face left and
Yeah.
everything black.
Yeah, yeah.
So black isn't even in your color wheel, is it? Do you have a black paint in your 50-some color
I
shades?
do not. I have a dark gray that has a lot of red in it.
Which is towards that color?
It's kind of like the color of wrought iron.
Oh.
Because there's a time and a place for it. In fact, I'm just about to do a project where, they wanted black and we were able to, move on to this black-like. And it's going to give the vibration and the life and everything you want about, because really it's about silhouette.
Yeah.
If you want something to be black.
I agree. I like that.
And silhouettes are beautiful.
Oh, yeah,
but they don't
are.
have to be pitch black.
Right. I do find, though, like right now, lots of people, and I even suggest black fences. People are painting their houses black only because it's like a good canvas, and then green looks beautiful along black.
That's kind of what we're doing, but we're doing this wrought iron color.
Right.
It's called South Sea Tahitian. It's called Tahitian Pearl. Tahitian Pearl.
Oh, Tahitian Pearl is this black-ish.
Blackish. It's got a lot of red in it. So there's a lot of vibration to it. It's not flat. And, black itself, pure black, stops your eye. So my paint collection is more of a full spectrum palette, which it means it's the absence of black because it stops your eye, and the absence of gray, unless it's a gray color. But none of my colors are grayed down because gray, and I'm talking about pure black and white, not complex, is a veil over your emotions, causes you to be overly emotional.
The gray does?
It's one of the worst colors to paint your interiors, and for the last decade,
Everybody's gray.
it's gray. And so when I give talks, one of the things I say is people in prisons are longing for color. What are you doing?
It's so true. Gray is kind of a void as well. But it's very modern.
Well, there's beautiful shades of gray. I'm just talking about black and
50
white.
Shades of Gray.
Right,
But
right.
there's no gray in the garden either.
No,
It's not a nature color.
no, but even like in the concrete, like here, there's like purple in it. Like it's not pure black and white.
And another thing, though, the way light hits that too.
Of course, and time of day.
And time of day.
And reflection. You know, one of the things I had to learn working out here is the reflection of the green in somebody's garden coming into their rooms.
Completely.
We don't have that in New York.
Because you don't have light like that.
And we don't have
Sun
landscape.
landscape.
I mean, in East Hampton you do, but it's not the same. It's the quality of light. So that's a big consideration, is the green is going to reflect in your space.
Well, windows
so
in general. So
you have to make sure that whatever your palette is, it's going to neutralize that.
It's so interesting and so cool. So I feel like all the seeds that we all want to plant, I love color, but I feel like you need to know your color.
You do.
So either you find
it's about
Jillian
yourself
to get right.
It's self-discovery.
Right, it is. You got to look through colors and see what fits you and what feels, because it might necessarily look good, but it still doesn't feel good, you know? Mm-hmm. A lot of people say that about this funky green, you know? Like, I couldn't wear this funky green. I feel like really washed out, they would think.
But it suits you.
Well, and it's a cool color. It's like alive, you know?
I love that color.
But I do feel like it's such a personal thing. Color is personal. So I think with a little bit of homework and a little bit of digging, you can figure out what colors feel right to you and don't feel right to you. And like she said, some places really do call for, like living in New York, you aren't as exposed to like all this sunshine. And so there's a lot of personal issues around these colors. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. And I'm so grateful that you're here today to talk to us about this. And I think it's really important, too, that people find their colors and find what makes them...
It's self-discovery. Yeah. It's a piece of how you function that you may not know about.
Right.
But someone like me can see it.
Exactly. So I think it's really important, and I think it's a good thing to spend a little time with, too. So can you point us to a book or a palette that we can all be able to get if we don't have exposure to you and your paints? Like, how would you send me to somewhere to figure it out?
I would start by asking you to look in your closet.
So clothes.
Because it's a palette.
And that you picked.
For your entire life. Start there.
Okay. So we're going to come out of the closet, pick your colors, get yourself outside, and put them in the light.
I love it.
I love it too. I think it's fun, fabulous, and it feels good.
So what I like to say is that color is not merely a mirror. It's a door. And you want to go through that door.
I love that. I think you want to see it out the window, but you want to go out the door. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart.